Bismillahi, bless. I open myself to you, my God, who or why can stand alone or stand with any. Then I open myself to you, my witnesses. Then I seek to reach consensus with or without whom to why not have how much fun, love, or joy. Because who might reasonably misunderstand or get sick or get hurt. Otherwise, why not have how much fun, love, or joy? What's your idea of fun? Being able to respond and seek responses. We must renew our commitment to the profession of arms. We're not a profession simply because we say we're a profession. We must continue to learn, to understand. Introduction from Martin E. Dempsey, General, U.S. Army, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs and Chiefesses of Staff. We must renew our commitment to the profession of arms. We're not a profession simply because we say we're a profession. We must continue to learn, to understand. My response, from the oldest profession and its skills, attributes, and behaviors regarding stand alone or stand with, whose choice, to what degree, for how long. This was post number 412 of 412 by William Hale, aka Hinging Zero, Tuesday, 28 February 2012 at 11:12 a.m. We must renew our commitment to the profession of arms. We're not a profession simply because we say we're a profession. We must continue to learn, to understand. From the oldest profession and its skills, attributes, and behaviors regarding stand alone or stand with, whose choice, to what degree, for how long. My response to you, General Dempsey. Do you know the difference between the equal and unequal assumption of innocence and authority for each and every one? My question to you, the United States military. General Dempsey started the conversation with we must renew our commitment to the profession of arms. We're not a profession simply because we say we're a profession. We must continue to learn, to understand. The word stand clued me into the word constitution, which means stand with. Therefore, I began my response by saying, we must continue to learn to understand from the oldest profession and its skills, attributes, and behaviors regarding stand alone or stand with, whose choice, to what degree, for how long. Those are my words. Do you guys and gals know the difference between the equal and unequal assumption of innocence and authority for each and every one? Sure, we've been hearing about don't ask, don't tell, equal rights for gays, equal rights for women in combat. We're getting pretty familiar with the equal assumption of innocence and authority for each and every one. The equal assumption of innocence and authority regarding stand alone or stand with is universal conscription with military or alternate service equal as the teeth on a comb for everyone. The shot heard round the world at Concord Bridge, the duties of membership in the collective sovereign, upon which a national Department of Defense is built to defend and uphold the constitutional rights of each and every U.S. citizen. Constitutional from the word con, Latin, meaning with, and stitu, meaning stand. Cross-reference, understand. One nation, understand. Or under the logic of the equal assumption of innocence and authority for each and every one. To stand alone or stand with. Whose choice, to what degree, for how long? Cross-reference, who or why can stand alone or stand with any. The 100% independence towards which we move in our pursuit of happiness, So that's about the equal assumption of innocence and authority. Once we're in the military, then there's a chain of command with differences in authority according to rank, to and from the highest independence, the commander-in-chief, under whom we the people, created by whom, and then at the bottom the private, taking orders from above, who also happens to be a member of the sovereign in this great circle of sovereignty. In contrast, the unequal assumptions of stand, subordinate, and prostitute an all-volunteer military into a 1776 British redcoat-style global mercenary, doing the work of the highest bidders who keep themselves endowed with income to win their bids by refusing to offer Department of Motor Vehicles style insurance at the sovereign level to offset the risks of potentially lethal technology. Arms, uranium, biologic, genetic technology, thus keeping us dependent upon their skill at using and threatening force, and blocking us from being able to use sovereign, peaceful, and defensive use only insurance to reduce the costs of defending against such two-edged swords of technology. Thus keeping us dependent upon their skill at using and threatening force, and blocking us from being able to use sovereign, peaceful, and defensive use only insurance to reduce the cost of defending against such two-edged swords of technology. And further, these guys buy elections through anonymous fundraising organizations, which, through artful advertising and other means, hypnotize and divide and rule by slim majorities, operating on borrowed funds so as to not levy taxes or require mandatory military or alternative service, which would break the trance over the electorate, and who then ordered the U.S. State Department and military to serve U.S. interests, which are actually their own more narrow interests. You know, what's good for GM is good for the U.S. kind of logic, which are actually their own more narrow interests, and thus we are divided from our more perfect union to the profit of market forces seeking to escape their moral and legal duty to the basic human rights of the invisible hands of supply and demand, and instead leaving us, we the people, in a net loss position regarding our sovereign will, when we are unable to promote the general welfare because of a domestic economy built on a threat of international force without the counterbalance of international, sovereign, peaceful, and defensive use only insurance, which reduces the risks of harm U.S. citizens and their families are exposed to wherever they might be, and which also reduces the costs of the common defense. When you have an insurance policy, you're covered. Why would someone want to hurt you? They're going to endow your family and more with a steady income stream. If you are harmed, your family's protected. There's a more certain kind of lifestyle. You're not so dependent on the man with a gun anymore. You're more dependent on reason and rationality and being able to do what you want to do, the way Sherlock Holmes never had a badge, and yet look what he did for Scotland Yard. That's why our constitutional rights protect us in the spirit of the Liberty Tree and the shot heard round the world at Concord Bridge. International, sovereign, peaceful, and defensive use only insurance reduces the risk of harm upon U.S. citizens and their families, wherever they might be, and which also reduces the cost of the common defense, which is currently draining our budget and making the threat and use of force our largest U.S. export, supporting our currency, the dollar, through the mutual extortion of global COP and big oil so they can pay one another for fuel and protection. And further, the unequal assumptions of innocence and authority have subordinated and prostituted our sovereign duty to serve and stand side by side in domestic tranquility with our international American siblings. Because our love thy neighbor nation diplomatic and military policies now use all volunteer method, which has been prostituted into a mercenary system to uphold the oppression of members of international American families who are outside our jurisdiction, but who are within the hearts and souls of international American families inside our jurisdiction. Families in, well, to not embarrass other countries, you can fill in the names. And if you can't, then do your own research. So these families are inside the hearts and minds of our international American siblings who are inside our jurisdiction, thus dividing international American families who are inside our jurisdiction between their love of their family and their love of the country. And this in turn consciously and unconsciously divides all Constitution-loving U.S. citizens from our government, because if our government promoted the domestic tranquility of international American families, our government would use rebated tariffs and peaceful and defensive use only of technology insurance and what else to apply 100% consistent, unbiased logic to all people inside and outside U.S. jurisdiction who are affected by U.S. policies and trade, and thus make international Americans and all U.S. citizens sure there could be no more perfect union than that which we have at present, until time and progress should permit it to become more perfect. Thus, then, could we stand with any U.S. citizen in domestic tranquility, because all had been done that could be done at this time, instead of making it feel like we're accessories after the fact to the crime of discrimination and oppression of their family members who happen to be outside of our formal jurisdictional boundary. We must renew our commitment to the profession of arms. We're not a profession simply because we say we're a profession. We must continue to learn, to understand the rights and responsibilities that give us the authority to bear arms, for what cause and whose name. Then my response to you, General Dempsey, from the oldest profession and its skills, your word, attributes, your word, and behavior, your word, regarding my word, stand alone or stand with, the most fundamental choice that goes with the oldest language, touch, hold, move, the three languages of the one God, well known to the oldest profession. Those excluded outside the marriage bond who address the needs, interests, and problems arising from the oldest language. Whose choice, to what degree, for how long? Footnote 1, Martin E. Dempsey, General, U.S. Army Chairman of the Joint Chiefs and Chiefesses of Staff. Footnote 2, WLH Haji Mao, AIB, unpaid, unofficial volunteer, U.S. citizen and honorary world citizen. Filed under uncategorized, alternate service, coach style, Concord Bridge, Department of Motor Vehicles, oldest profession, universal conscription. May God accept our efforts. Allah Akbar.